I was drawn here by the sound of a baby's laughter. There's not a more beautiful sound in the world, and I don't hear enough of that kind of laughter.
Hello, my name is Dermot Mullen. I live in Elkton, Maryland, and I've been a member of the board of directors of the Cecil County Pregnancy Center since the year 2006. I was actively involved with the Pregnancy Center back in the terrible year of 2010, when it was discovered that abortions were going on in Elkton, right in the building where I'm sitting right now. It's called the Charles Brown Plaza. And the way that the abortions were discovered was that there was a doctor coming from New Jersey to perform abortions here, and the abortion of one of the women was botched, and she ended up in the emergency room in Union Hospital in Elkton. And the police came to investigate what had happened, and they found 35 baby bodies in the freezer in this building where I'm sitting right now. So we know that Dr. Brigham had done at least 35 abortions in this building, and he stored the bodies in the freezer. For what purpose he was saving the bodies, that never was revealed, but people can guess. After the police had come, the medical examiner for Maryland got involved and took the bodies from the freezer and examined them to see if any of them had been viable when they were aborted. And after an investigation by the medical examiner's office of Maryland, there was a charge brought against Stephen Brigham and his associate Nicola Riley more than a year after the bodies had been discovered. And they were charged with several counts of first-degree murder, and there was a trial set up for them, and it was to be held here in Elkton. And there was a circus atmosphere around it when the trial opened in March of 2012. On the first day of the trial, there was a false alarm that mentioned the idea of a bomb being in the courthouse. So the trial had to be stopped. I mean, someone was trying to stop having the trial. But eventually, when the trial did get started, at one point the district attorney decided that they were exercising their discretion and they were going to withdraw all charges. There was no explanation why they had stopped the trial. Some of us suspected that perhaps the primary medical witness had been pressured to withdraw his or her testimony. We don't know. But in any case, the trial was aborted, and nothing ever came of what had happened here, at least legally. But in the meantime, within a few weeks of the event, there were people in Elkton who were working on trying to rectify the damage that had been done. And the first person to do something about it was the pastor of the Catholic Church in Elkton. Our church here is called Immaculate Conception Church. And the pastor at the time was Father Joseph Pekarsky. And when he heard the news, he came right over to the building here, and he prayed outside the building, and he used holy water to bless the doors. And he was trying to find ways to offset the damage that had been done. Then he prepared a memorial mass in memory of the 35 babies that had been found here. So he made arrangements to have an evening mass at our church, which was eventually held 2 or 3 weeks after the babies were discovered. And what Father Pekarsky did in preparation for the mass was he wanted to make the babies have names so that people would appreciate these were real people. So somehow Father Pekarsky was able to come up with 35 separate names, so there'd be one for each of the babies that had been found. It was never revealed how he came up with those names, but some of us suspected that Father Pekarsky had gone around among his parishioners and asked especially people who did not have children of their own if they would be willing to supply a name for one of the babies. And after the babies were returned from the state, one of the lawyers who goes to our church, his name is Thomas Kemp, he had requested that the state should return the babies after the state had done their examination. He made the legal arrangements for that to happen, and eventually all 35 babies were brought back here, and they were given over to Hicks Home for Funerals, which is one of the funeral homes here in Elkton. And in Hicks Home for Funerals, one of the workers there wrapped each baby carefully in a separate shroud and placed it in a small child's casket that was provided by the funeral home. And then on a certain day in early November, Father Pekarski had a burial ceremony for these children at Immaculate Conception Cemetery. And there was a stone prepared with all 35 names of the children listed on that stone, and that was placed over the burial place. And they were laid into the cold ground up in the Elkton Cemetery on that day. And once a year, a ceremony is held at that gravesite which remembers the 35 babies. And part of the ceremony is to involve a roll call. So the name of those 35 babies is called out, and a person who's in attendance will take a rose and put it onto the gravestone. And that's one of the ways we remember that these babies had died here in Elkton. And after 9 years, it so happened that the pregnancy center moved from the place where they used to be into another location, and it was a location that was chosen by Dan Moeller, who was the executive director of the pregnancy center then. And it was no less than the Charles Brown building in which the abortions themselves had been done. So this was a vision that Dan had had about moving in here so that God's work would be done here rather than the work of evil, which had been done here before.
All right, hello, my name is Daniel Moeller. I'm currently the associate pastor of First Baptist Church in Northeast Maryland. One day I saw an article in the paper that talked about a building in town that was being used as an abortion facility. I wasn't aware of that. I think many people were not aware of it. Well, I came over and looked at the location and very quickly realized the passion to get in this building. So it took quite a while to get in the building. First of all, the cost for the rent was quite excessive compared to what we were used to paying. But I just felt a growing passion to get in this facility to show the opportunity that women have to choose life.
And at the time we first moved in, the new pastor of Immaculate Conception Church, his name was Father James Yekel, if he would come over and bless the building for us. So he came over here and he blessed each of the rooms, and it was particularly moving when he arrived at the room in which the abortions themselves had been done in this building. And he blessed it, and they installed an ultrasound machine which had been donated by the Knights of Columbus. And at an earlier time when we were having a blessing done for that machine, Bishop Malooly from Wilmington had mentioned that the ultrasound machine was the greatest tool that pro-lifers had in their battle against abortion. And so the pregnancy center, since we moved in here, has been using the ultrasound machine in order to save lives.
I am amazed at the power of the tool that I'll have a girl in here that's sitting here completely thinking an abortion is the only answer for her. And the transformation that happens once she's able to see her child on the screen with a beating heart and realize that this is life. Hi, my name's Jeannie. I'm the nurse manager here at the Cecil Pregnancy and Family Resource Center. And this is the room that I get the blessing to use this ultrasound machine and be part of the wonderful ministry here at the center.
Hi, I'm Nadia. This is Kimura. I figured out I was pregnant and I wasn't sure if I was keeping it, so I was looking up like abortion clinics and like places to get abortions, and I found this place, but I didn't know that it was an abortion place. I figured out quickly that it wasn't, and then I came here anyway, and I got an ultrasound, and that's when I figured out that I was keeping her.
Also, it helps them just realize the truth of what's going on with them, and then we're able to give them resources potentially for some of the barriers that they think that are standing in the way of them being a parent.
The center gave me like books and pregnancy classes, clothes, anything a baby could possibly need, the center gave me.
I like to just let them know there is no eraser for this moment. This is a strong, powerful moment. It's an in the ink moment. You're going to remember this. So now it's up to you to find a way to continue drawing with ink, something that you're proud to look back at.
I found the pregnancy center when I was pregnant at 19. It was one of the scariest moments in my life, but the center really helped me to prepare for motherhood. My name is Skylar Stafford. I am 22 years old, and I was able to finish my associate's degree in social work, and I'm now working on my bachelor's in criminal justice. I am set to graduate next year. It's definitely been quite the journey, but the Pregnancy Center has always been a safe place that I could go to and just talk about my day, learn something new, and overall it's just been such a blessing to us.
I'm gonna come here as much as I can because I have a baby now. I want to continue doing the classes to learn more and be the best mom I can be.
So here we are now, thanks to Dan Moeller. We're in this building and we're doing God's work here and trying to build a culture of life in Elkton where before there had been activities belonging to something that can only deserves the name of the culture of death. And we want Elkton to be known as a place where children are welcome.